elements of the array. So the way that I do that is I use the name of the array followed by a subscript. So if I declare an array called buff and it has 100 elements, then it's clear to everybody that buff sub 0 is the first and buff sub 99 is the last. Now, before I'm going to talk about this a couple times, one of the big and oldest security vulnerabilities in programming is the buffer overflow. This is an old security problem, and guess what? It's still there. It is so easy to write beyond the end of an array, and C++ is terrible at checking for it. It lets you do it. So if you have space for 100 and you try to write to 102, guess what it does? Writes right over memory whatever's there. Okay? Doesn't give you an error, doesn't, necessarily crash. It writes right over memory. And this is called a buffer overflow. This is one of the most exploited and oldest security vulnerabilities that exists. Now, Java is safer in the sense that it throws an out-of-bounds exception if you do that. Well, I still don't think that's a good thing, right? But at least it doesn't let you write over memory. So buffer bounds are a big place for hackers to exploit, okay? So C is terrible because it doesn't check at all. All right, so let's keep that in mind. We're going to do a security injection on that. Let's talk about what we can use as a subscript. So if you look here, I can have a number. So if I have an array called, I can have a variable, an expression, or a number, constant, okay? So angle sub 0 equals 493. I'm using this just like a variable. So I can access elements of the array. If I have 20 test scores, I can say test score sub 3 equals 95, just like I would X or Y or anything else, okay? But notice that I can use numbers as my subscripts, and I can also use variables. So without knowing the details of the array, can you tell me what this third bullet is doing? What is this third bullet doing? Not to arrays. 2 elements. And what is the deal with those elements? Can anybody expound on that? What is special about those elements, and where is the sum going? Can you look at that problem and tell me what's happening when you have val I and val I plus 1? Who's trying? Go ahead. It's adding this element. If this is val sub I don't care where it is. Where's val sub I plus 1? The subsequent element, right? It's taking this element, adding the subsequent, and it's putting the sum where? In the one below, right? I don't even need to know what I is to know that it's adding subsequent elements and putting the sum in the one below. So this is an example just showing you that I can use a variable, which is going to be really useful in a little bit, you're going to see, and I can use expressions inside the subscript, okay? Now, what is this guy doing? What is C out score sub k, k plus 1, score k plus 2 doing? What's that? In a similar fashion, what is that doing? But if this is score k, where's score k plus 1? The one immediately following. So it's outputting 3 subsequent test scores. K plus 1. Okay. So we can do anything to an array element that we can do to a variable. I can assign to an array element. This is important. Okay, this is our next exercise. I can assign a value to an array element. I can put it inside an expression. I can output an array element, not a whole array, an array element. I can check to see if an array element is some value. I can input an array element so long as I give, and how do I access an array element there? What's the deal then? Name of the array followed by the location within the array. Does that make sense? The index. This is called the index. You with me? Okay, so let's try it. So if we look at